That was my last customer. Zarra screamed, pointing at the elderly man who was now speed walking away from both their stalls as fast as his legs could carry him. Your customer? Amina shot back. He came to my store first. You're the one who lured him away with your lies about fresh harvest. They are fresh. Unlike yours, which have been sitting there since last week looking sadder than a rainy Tuesday. At least mine are properly sized. Yours look like they were grown by a confused farmer who couldn't decide if he wanted yams or potatoes. A crowd was beginning to gather. This wasn't unusual. In fact, Zarra and Amina's daily screaming matches had become something of entertainment for the other market vendors. Some had even started placing bets on who would win each argument. The two girls had been rivals for exactly 6 months. Both sold yams. Both had stalls directly opposite each other. Both were stubborn as rocks and twice as hard-headed. And both were convinced, absolutely convinced, that the other was the sole reason their businesses weren't flourishing. You know what your problem is? Zarra said, stepping closer, her voice dripping with venom. You have no customer service skills. You just stand there looking like someone stole your lunch. And you, Amina countered, also stepping forward until they were nearly nose to nose, smile so much it's creepy. You look like you're trying to hypnotize people into buying rotten vegetables. Rotten? I will have you know that Chief Adeyemi himself said my yams were the finest he'd ever. Oh please, Chief Adeyemi is half blind and wouldn't know a fine yam if it introduced itself. The market erupted in laughter. Even Mom Ngozi, the oldest vendor who usually stayed out of everyone's business, was chuckling into her wrapper. Zarra's face turned red. Amina's jaw clenched. They stood there, locked in a battle of wills, breathing hard, until finally Zarra spun around and marched back to her stall. Amina did the same, making sure to knock over Zarra's price sign as she passed. Petty. Zarra yelled. Accurate. Amina yelled back. This was their life. Every single day. Fight, argue, compete, and go home fuming. That evening, after the market had closed and Zarra was counting her meager earnings, she noticed something odd. A new stall had appeared at the far end of the market. It hadn't been there this morning. The sign read, Mama Ife's Mystical Solutions in crooked handwriting, and behind the table sat an ancient woman with more wrinkles than a dried date and eyes that seemed to glow in the dim evening light. Zarra approached cautiously. Excuse me, are you a medicine woman? I am whatever you need me to be, child, the old woman replied in a voice like crackling leaves. You look troubled. Business not going well. Zarra hesitated, then sighed. There's this girl. My competitor. She's ruining everything. Every customer I almost get, she steals. Every price I set, she undercuts. I need an edge. The old woman's lips curled into a knowing smile. Oh. Matters of competition. I have just the thing. She pulled out a small leather pouch tied with red string. This is a powerful charm. It will help your business flourish. It will make customers see what they truly desire. But be warned, magic always has a price, and it doesn't always work the way you expect. How much? Zarra asked, already reaching for her money. 3 cowries. It was expensive, but Zarra was desperate. She paid, clutched the charm to her chest, and hurried home, already imagining Amina's face when customers started flocking to Zarra's stall instead. What Zarra didn't see was Amina emerging from behind a stack of baskets just moments later, approaching the exact same old woman. I couldn't help but overhear, Amina said. You have charms that help with business. The old woman's smile grew wider. Indeed I do, child. Indeed I do. The next morning, both girls arrived at the market wearing their charms around their necks, hidden beneath their wrappers. Both were feeling confident. Both were ready to finally win this rivalry once and for all. And then he walked in. The traveling merchant was tall, with smooth dark skin that seemed to glow in the morning sunlight. He wore fine clothes in deep blue and gold, and he moved with the kind of grace that made people stop and stare. He set up a temporary stall near the market entrance, arranging exotic fabrics and rare spices with careful precision. When he looked up and smiled at the gathering crowd, Zarra felt her heart literally skip a beat. Her charm suddenly felt warm against her skin. "Good morning," the merchant called out in a voice like warm honey. "My name is Ode. I'll be trading here for the next few days. I look forward to meeting you all." Zarra found herself walking toward him as if pulled by invisible strings. She'd never felt anything like this before. It was like every other thought in her head had simply evaporated, replaced by one single burning desire, to talk to this man. She was halfway there when she collided with someone. Amina. They both stumbled, looked at each other in confusion, then looked back at Ode, then back at each other. Horror dawned on both their faces simultaneously. "No," Zarra whispered. "No, no, no," Amina echoed. "You too." Apparently. They stood there, frozen in mutual dismay, as Ode continued arranging his wares, completely oblivious to the crisis unfolding just meters away. The charms around both their necks pulsed with warmth. "This is your fault," Zarra hissed. "My fault? How is this my fault? You probably bought a defective charm. Now it's affecting me." "Oh please, if anyone's charm is defective, it's yours. You probably got scammed by some fake medicine woman." They both stopped. Looked at each other. "Where did you buy your charm?" they asked in unison. "Mama Ife's stall. Last night. Far end of the market." They stared at each other as understanding crashed over them like a cold wave. "We bought from the same woman," Zarra said slowly. "The same charm," Amina added. "And now we both like the same person." There was a long, painful silence. Then Amina squared her shoulders. "Well, obviously he's going to choose me. I'm taller." "Taller? Since when is that what matters? I have a better smile." "You smile like a crazy person." "At least I have personality." "You have the charisma of a rock." They were starting to draw attention again. Ode glanced over, looking curious. Both girls immediately stopped arguing and waved at him, huge fake smiles plastered on their faces. He waved back, looking slightly confused, then returned to his work. The girls turned back to each other, smiles dropping instantly. "Okay," Zarra said through gritted teeth. "We have a problem." "The understatement of the century," Amina muttered. "We need to fix this. Break the charm somehow. Or..." Amina's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Or we compete. Fair and square. May the best woman win." Zarra considered this. On one hand, working with Amina sounded like a nightmare. On the other hand, losing to Amina sounded worse. "Fine. Competition. But we need rules." "Agreed. No sabotage. No lying about each other. Just pure charm." She paused, no pun intended. "And at the end of 3 days, we let him choose." They shook hands, both squeezing perhaps a bit harder than necessary. "May the best woman win," Zarra said. "Oh, she will," Amina replied with a smirk. The competition began immediately. Zarra approached Ade's store first, her heart hammering. "Hello. Welcome to our market. I'm Zarra. I sell yams just over there." She pointed, trying to look casual and failing miserably. Ode smiled warmly. "Zarra. What a lovely name. And yams, you say?" "I actually love yams. My mother used to make the most incredible pounded yam." "Really? I could bring you some. Free sample. The best you've ever tasted." "That's very kind of you." Zarra was about to say more when Amina appeared at her elbow like a materialized demon. Hello. I'm Amina. I also sell yams. Much better ones. I mean, she caught herself, remembering the rules, also very good ones. Different variety. You should try both and compare. Zarra's eye twitched but she maintained her smile. Yes. Try both. Though mine are fresher. Mine are bigger. Size isn't everything. Quality then. Exactly. Quality. Which mine have. Ode looked between them, clearly trying not to laugh. You both sell yams. And your stalls are right across from each other, they said together, then glared at each other. How interesting, Ode said, and there was something in his tone that neither girl could quite read. Well, I'd love to try both of your products. Perhaps we could all share a meal sometime. I'd love to hear about the market, the village, your businesses. Both girls lit up. Yes. Tomorrow evening. Ode suggested. I'll cook. I'm quite good, if I do say so myself. It's the least I can do for such a warm welcome. After he turned away, Zarra and Amina looked at each other. This was not going according to plan. Neither was winning. Instead, they'd somehow ended up invited to the same dinner. This is a disaster, Zarra whispered. Total disaster, Amina agreed. But both showed up the next evening anyway. Ode had set up a beautiful dinner near his store, cloth spread on the ground, candles flickering, and the most delicious smells wafting from covered pots. Zarra and Amina sat on opposite sides, both dressed in their finest wrappers, both trying to outshine the other. The food was incredible. Ode had somehow prepared jollof rice that tasted like heaven, grilled fish that melted in the mouth, and plantains fried to absolute perfection. This is amazing, Zarra said honestly. Seriously amazing, Amina added. Ode beamed. Thank you. I learned from the best cooks in every village I visited. Speaking of which, tell me about you two. How did you both end up selling yams? Zarra and Amina exchanged glances. Then Zarra spoke. My mother was a farmer. She taught me everything about yams, how to spot the good ones, how to store them, how to know when they're perfectly ready. When she passed, I took over her stall. It's my way of keeping her memory alive. There was a softness in Zarra's voice that Amina had never heard before. She found herself actually listening, actually caring. My father was a trader, Amina found herself saying. He traveled everywhere, but yams were always his specialty. He said they were the foundation of life, the crop that sustained kingdoms. When he got too old to travel, I took over. I guess I'm trying to make him proud. Zarra looked at Amina with new eyes. She'd never known that. She'd never asked. Ode nodded thoughtfully. So you both have deep connections to your work. It's not just business, it's legacy. That's beautiful. No wonder you're both so passionate. Passionate is one word for it, Zarra muttered. We fight a lot, Amina admitted. Every day, Zarra added. Sometimes twice a day. Once we fought for 3 hours straight over a single customer. They looked at each other and, for the first time in 6 months, both started laughing. Really laughing. Not the bitter, angry sounds they usually made, but genuine, silly laughter. Ode watched them with that strange expression again, like he knew something they didn't. You two are more alike than you realize, he said quietly. Bite your tongue, they both said simultaneously, then laughed again. The evening continued. They talked about the market, about village gossip, about their favorite foods and childhood memories. Somewhere along the way, Zarra forgot she was competing. Somewhere along the way, Amina forgot she was supposed to hate Zarra. They were just talking. Enjoying themselves. When Ode walked them both back toward their homes later, the moon high and bright above them, Zarra realized something strange. Her charm had stopped feeling warm. In fact, she barely noticed it anymore. Day 2 of the competition went very differently. When a customer came looking at both their stalls, instead of fighting, they found themselves actually helping each other. If you want it for frying, take hers, those ones crisp up better, Zarra heard herself saying. But if you need it for pounding, take hers, softer texture, Amina added. The customer, looking thoroughly confused by this sudden cooperation, bought from both of them. After the customer left, they stared at each other. Did we just work together? Amina asked. I think we did, Zarra replied, sounding equally shocked. That felt weird. Really weird. But also kind of nice. They both frowned, not sure how to process this development. That evening, Ode invited them for another meal. This time, they found themselves sitting next to each other instead of opposite, their earlier hostility replaced by something like comfortable companionship. They told stories, trading jokes and laughing at each other's expense in a way that felt more playful than cruel. You know, Ode said at one point, looking between them with those knowing eyes, I've been to many markets in many villages, and I've never seen two people more perfectly matched. Matched, they both said. In skill. In passion. In dedication. You're like two sides of the same coin. Zarra and Amina looked at each other. Something passed between them, something neither could quite name. Zarra noticed, for the first time, how Amina's eyes crinkled when she really smiled. Amina noticed how Zarra twisted her fingers when she was thinking hard about something. When had Amina become pretty? When had Zarra become interesting? They both blinked, confused by their own thoughts. On the third day, Mama Ife's stall appeared again. Both girls approached her together this time. We need to break the charm, Zarra said. It's making us feel things that aren't real, Amina added. The old woman chuckled, that same knowing sound from before. Oh child, the charm didn't make you feel anything. It only revealed what was already there. But we both fell for Ode. Did you? Mama Ife interrupted. Or did you think you did because the charm gave you permission to feel something, anything, other than anger at each other? Zarra and Amina fell silent. Go talk to your merchant friend, Mama Ife said with a wave of her hand. I think you'll find some interesting answers. They found Ode packing up his stall. He looked up as they approached, that mysterious smile playing on his lips. I wondered when you'd figure it out, he said. Figure what out? Amina asked. And then Ode began to shimmer. His form wavered like heat rising from hot sand. His features shifted, becoming sharper, more angular, decidedly less human. His eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. I'm not exactly a traveling merchant, he admitted. I'm a trickster spirit. Mama Ife and I work together sometimes. She sells the charms, I provide the test. Test, they both shouted. The charm didn't make you fall in love with me, Ode, or whatever his real name was, continued. It made you think you had a common goal, something that required cooperation. Something that made you see past your ridiculous rivalry. And what did you discover? Zarra and Amina looked at each other. Really looked. That we're not so different, Zarra said slowly. That we actually work well together, Amina added. That maybe. Zarra hesitated, feeling her face grow warm. Maybe I don't actually hate you. Maybe I don't hate you either, Amina said, and there was something in her voice, something soft and uncertain and hopeful. The spirit grinned. There it is. The real magic. You were never fighting over me. You were fighting with yourselves, too stubborn to see that your so-called enemy might actually be your perfect match. In business. In friendship. In other things. He began to fade, his voice echoing. The charm's purpose is fulfilled. What you do with this revelation is up to you. And then he was gone, leaving only a faint shimmer in the air and two very confused girls standing in an empty market. They walked home in silence. Not the angry silence of before, but something different. Something charged with possibility. So, Zarra finally said. That was weird. Incredibly weird, Amina agreed. We got tricked. Completely tricked. More silence. Then. Amina? Yeah? When you were smiling at dinner yesterday, I kind of thought. I mean, I noticed that you. Zarra trailed off, courage failing her. But Amina understood. I noticed you too. The way you talk with your hands when you're excited. The way you actually listen when someone's telling a story. I never let myself see those things before. Because I was the enemy. Because you were the enemy, Amina confirmed. Then she laughed. What a stupid reason to miss out on knowing someone. They'd reached the fork in the path where they usually split up to go to their separate homes. Neither moved. Zarra. Yeah. Tomorrow, instead of competing, maybe we could try combining our stalls. Pool our resources. We'd make more money together than apart. Zarra's face broke into a real smile. I'd like that. And maybe after market, we could get dinner. Just the two of us. No trickster spirits involved. Amina's answering smile was bright enough to light up the darkening sky. I'd really like that. They stood there for a moment longer, the last rays of sunlight painting everything gold. Then, tentatively, carefully, their hands found each other. You know, Amina said, I think that trickster spirit was right. We are perfectly matched. In business? Zarra asked, hope and nervousness making her voice shake slightly. In everything, Amina replied. And when they finally parted ways to go to their separate homes, both were smiling. Really, truly smiling. Not the fake customer service smiles or the mean competitive smiles, but the kind of smiles that come from realizing that sometimes the person you've been fighting is actually the person you've been looking for all along. Mama Ife watched from her mystical stall as the two girls walked away hand in hand. She chuckled to herself, adding 3 cowries to her collection jar. Works every time, she muttered, already preparing for her next customers. Enemies to lovers. Tale as old as time. Though they never see it coming. From somewhere in the spirit realm, Ode laughed. The game was done, and love, in whatever form it took, had won again. The yams could rest peacefully now. The war was over.